Hey guys, this week's podcast features Chris Schobert, a frequent contributor to the Buffalo News and creator of Filmswoon.com. Chris came down, talked about the role of food in movies, movie trends, and the rise of food documentaries. Let's get to it.
Chris, it's kind of weird doing this because I've probably known you longer than I've known any of the people we've had down here in this podcast.
That's probably true.
But yeah, I think I counted it was like 13 years ago when I started work at Target.
Wow, yeah, so that would have been...
I was just 16.
Okay, yeah. I started when I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20.
Yeah.
And you may have been there at the time, I don't remember. But yeah, I remember a few years ago when I saw your name somewhere, I was like, Donnie Burtless? Donnie Burtless, really? And my wife, she knew you really well. She remembered you fondly. And
yeah, it's
wow, that's cool.
It's kind of crazy how
it's very strange.
Yeah,
it's very
together.
strange.
But this all kind of started because another podcast called Movie Madness, they asked if I want to come on an episode and talk about food movies. And I started to think about it, and the only things that came into my head were American Pie. When he,
it's so funny. I thought of that this morning. I was like, I wonder if I should have mentioned American Pie.
That and like the whipped cream bikini from Varsity Blues. Like those are.
Wow, even I forgot that one.
Those are like my first two things, and I was like, I really can't come on the podcast. I have nothing useful to say.
Yeah.
And then I was like reading your site, Filmswoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I bet Chris could talk about some movie food collaborations.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't think that most movies make food a central part of the movie.
Yeah.
But as I was thinking about this after you asked me to do this, it's usually there somewhere. And it was kind of surprising to think about how often it actually is there. I think you don't notice it most of the time.
Yeah.
And that says something that I'm sure we'll explore. But yeah, it's kind of hard initially to think of. There are obvious things that you can think of right away.
Yeah,
it's funny that American Pie is one of them because I did think of that too.
Yeah, I was just so embarrassed with myself that I was like, I guess I could talk about how it's funny, and then I was like, well, I guess 9.5 Weeks was kind of foodish, but that was
it's funny. Last year. I reviewed whatever the last American Pie movie was. I think it was American Reunion.
God help you, right there.
It wasn't American Wedding. It was American Reunion. It was post-wedding.
Yeah.
And my review, I mentioned, I guess I was talking about food in movies, actually. I didn't think of that until today, but there's a great movie called Last Tango in Paris, Marlon Brando movie.
Yeah.
That's a great movie, and
the butter.
The butter. Yeah, the butter is lubricant. So I was thinking of that, and that seems much classier than a pie.
I have no idea what's going on.
Maybe it's the European element, but it's it's there. Butter pies.
Yeah, there's some type of connection.
Yeah,
but I also thought it was kind of unique. Like, so you've reviewed films for Buffalo Spree and for Buffalo News, correct?
Yeah, I started reviewing for the news in about 2003. I was in grad school.
Yeah.
And I was taking a journalism class. I'm not a trained journalist.
Yeah.
I was not a journalism major. I didn't write for a high school or college newspaper. I kind of wish I had.
Yeah.
But I was taking a journalism class, and the guy teaching it was a book reviewer for the news. And he liked, I think he wrote a review of About Schmidt, the Jack Nicholson movie. Yeah. It was the class. It was a journalism class. We never did anything related to journalism. We just wrote reviews. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
And he liked it. I liked a few other things I'd done, so he recommended me to the news. I started doing book reviews. The first bunch of books I reviewed were all hip-hop books. They asked if I was a hip-hop expert, and I said yes. I really was not. But, I know as much about it as any other form of music, but... and that kind of led to doing movies. And so I actually started writing about movies for the news, I think, before Spree. Spree it's a city and regional magazine. There are only so many ways you can wedge film into it.
Yeah. Does it have to be like a certain genre?
Well, it has to have some link to Buffalo.
Okay.
And I think I was successful at sometimes finding some links. The Toronto Film Festival, that was the great one.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's close by. People go to it.
How long you've been going to it for?
I've been going
right?
for about 6 years now. Yeah.
Nice.
And every time I go, I see people from Buffalo, so that was a good fit. But yes, I've been doing it now for for a long time, and it's not my day job. I don't know if it ever will be, but I love to do it, and I love to write about it, and it's a passion of mine, and to occasionally get paid to do it is a really nice thing.
Yeah. How has your review process evolved over the years that you've been doing it? Because I know even for our standard, when we go to restaurants, how we approached it 4 years ago to how we do it now is completely different.
Yeah. I've gotten lazier, but I think better. I used to take notes, and I used to kind of prepare going in, and now I find I don't start anything until after I see the movie. I used to try and kind of have a framework.
Yeah.
And then I would, often throw it out and drastically change it because I'd think, I'm going to like this movie. Then I'd see it and I hated it, so I'd have to change a lot of it. Now I just kind of go and, pretty quickly know where I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
Usually it's a tight deadline. Oftentimes it's like a Tuesday night screening and then the review has to be in Wednesday morning. And I found that actually kind of helps me because it just gets me to do it quicker, and I don't overthink it. Yeah. I probably have more typos, but I found that it's helped me, and I've really kind of scaled back the preparation.
Nice.
Because I think that sometimes preparing too much, I found did me a kind of a disservice when I was reviewing.
Yeah.
I would have spent so much time thinking about how I was going to approach it that I almost paid less attention to the movie I was watching.
That kind of makes sense, yeah.
And so
I've kind of done that with restaurants. I've gone into a setting and be like, all right, this is the kind of vibe they're going for, and this is the type of meal I'm expecting. And a lot of time I'd try to have okay, what's the angle gonna be what's my the
do
theme
that
of
yeah
this?
I still do that. I do it kind of more with book reviews because if it's a 500-page book, finding a way into it can be difficult to write about it. So usually I try and have some kind of theme or something that I kind of seize on. Book reviews are a little different, but usually there's something. Well, usually once I know how I'm going to start it, it's fine. It flows and it's done quickly.
Nice. Well, I figured you were the perfect person to come down here and talk with your... Because when I heard you on Kevin Purdy's podcast in Podform, you were talking about, I think it was the Oscars, right? And you were, and I talked to him about that afterwards because I said how I knew you, and he's like, the craziest thing, Chris was just rattling off the top of his head all that stuff, and so I know that you have a very vast knowledge of the.
Well, it's plenty to be ashamed of. I found at a certain point in my life that's the stuff that I retain. Yeah. Even better than sports stuff. I used to kind of statistics and things sports related. I used to remember, but. I couldn't do math, and I couldn't do this and that, but I can remember who directed. I'm trying to think of some really random movie. I'll think of one.
Well, the movies that you sent me, so to prep for this, you kind of gave me a little bit of a cheat sheet. And some stuff
which was more of a help from me, honestly, probably than you, because it got me thinking about food in movies, which is something that I don't think about that often.
Yeah, and so you sent me a couple scenes that was big, and I totally forgot about the Godfather restaurant scene where Michael shoots the cop.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a huge thing. Yeah, and then you sent me the thing about Old Boy. Is it
the squid? Yeah, the squid.
And I was trying to figure it out because it seemed like a couple of the the Asian, the Japanese and Chinese movies that you sent me, the food scenes were a little bit weirder. Kind of. For the American scenes, it seemed like it was more of a setting.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. But I don't know.
I think you're right, and it's something that again I've never really sat down and thought about it, but in kind of thinking about this, I did. It seems like movies, Japanese movies, Chinese movies. Wong Kar-wai, who's my favorite director, he's from Hong Kong.
Okay.
They really seem more focused on food in ways that I never realized. Yeah. And in shooting food in ways where it either looks really beautiful or really disgusting. And it doesn't look like it does in an American film. Yeah. It looks different, and it's used differently.
Do you think it's exaggerated? Or
I don't know. It's almost it seems like it's hyper real.
Yeah.
I was watching last night a movie of his called Fallen Angels.
Yeah.
And it's not one of my favorites of his, but it's great. It's a great movie.
Okay.
And there's a sequence that is set at a McDonald's. And even the McDonald's looks beautiful. It looks great. It looks like the greatest McDonald's ever. It's not like it's that nice, but just the way it's shot.
Yeah.
And the people in it are dressed really, they look great. And I was thinking, wow, even that is kind of, maybe exaggerated is the word.
Yeah.
He's a guy, and I think a lot of the directors from that part of the world are the same way. They shoot things in a very sensual way,
Yeah.
And food is done that way too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fascinating because I don't think it happens much in American
No.
movies.
Oh, well, you said I looked at the one clip, and you're gonna have to film me in the movie where it was like a guy like massaging a pig.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was in Fallen Angels.
Yeah. That was like kind of like almost like a comical scene, but like I don't know if I could envision that in like an American movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny because I hadn't seen Fallen Angels in a long time until I was watching it a bit last night, and I really think that's true. I don't know that I guess in Rocky, there's slabs of meat.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But
that's almost like more like a manly thing.
Yeah.
Like it represents like kind of something completely different.
Yeah, you don't usually see somebody kind of cutting up the pig.
Yeah.
And there are things that happen in those movies. Old Boy is a great example.
Yeah.
And that's a different director. Park Chan-wook is his name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably mispronouncing these. I apologize if I am to everyone who might listen.
We'll have links and everything. People can find this stuff.
In Old Boy, Old Boy is a foreign film.
Yeah.
And it has this great, strange short scene.
Yeah.
Where a guy eats a live squid.
Yeah.
And it, if the research can be trusted, he really did it.
Yeah, I mean,
sure
I
looks
just
that
watched
way.
it
Yeah.
like 3 times.
It
and
sure looks that way.
Yeah, it looks legit.
And there's a remake of that movie coming out. Spike Lee directed it. And Josh Brolin is in it. It's coming out in the fall.
Okay.
I bet it'll be at the film festival in the fall.
Okay. So it's already been shot and
It's
everything.
shot, yeah. It's coming soon, and I really wonder if that scene will be in the movie. If it is,
Yeah.
I don't think Josh Brolin's going to eat a live squid. But I wonder if it will,
like
if
be
it
like
will feel
a
the same.
like a raw steak or something like that.
Yeah. Maybe they'll get rid of it entirely.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's horrific to see somebody eat a live squid.
Yeah, it's pretty
on
messed up.
film. At the same time, if it's not done that way, why do it?
Yeah.
I hope that the American version doesn't even attempt it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to really go for it,
Yeah.
don't bother.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's got to be a cultural thing because even when you look at like the different foods that are popular in America as opposed to like China or Japan or wherever or Korea, like they're not scared of food as much as we are. Like,
No,
I think there's definitely that American
you're right.
culture that is afraid of a live squid.
Absolutely.
But like
Yeah.
that's kind of a regular thing in their meal. So maybe it's not. It's shocking. I mean,
Well, you know what's great about that scene, and this is kind of I think what you're getting at. The woman who works at the restaurant, I guess it's a restaurant. After he eats it, she kind of has a surprised look, and then she's done with that in like 10 seconds. She's fine, and she carries on her conversation.
And she like laughs at one point.
And I think they grow close.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would happen in America.
Yeah, right? Like, I think that would really freak some people out.
It would freak me out. It absolutely would.
But, I mean, so do you see that more in the movies there, though? That, like...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I'm definitely less experienced in a lot of that cinema than a lot of real diehard film fans would be, I suppose.
Yeah.
But a lot of my favorites come from that part of the world, and I think it's there.
Yeah.
My favorite movie is this movie Chungking Express.
Yes, that's what.
I was watching it last night, and it's funny because my wife has never seen it, and I could see she was not enjoying it. And she wasn't really getting. I mean, there's a girl in the movie who, her name is Faye Wong, is the actress, and I remember Quentin Tarantino he had a company through Miramax that released that movie in America.
Yeah.
And the first DVD, American DVD of that movie, he kind of hosts the movie, like there's an introduction from him.
Oh, okay.
And he says, every guy who watches this movie falls in love with Faye Wong. And he's right. And so I love her. She's great.
Yeah.
And every time I watch her, I think, oh, she's so adorable. And she's this, strange pixie-ish thing. And my wife watching last night said, God, she's so annoying. And yeah, she's right. But there's something in those movies that is exaggerated. Food is a part of it. It surprised me watching that movie again how focused on food it is. There's this extended metaphor with expired cans of pineapple.
Okay.
And that's like the first chunk of the movie. This cop who every day he buys a can of pineapple that expires on May 1st because May 1st is coming.
Yeah.
And once he has, 30 for the entire month of April and it's May 1st, he knows his girlfriend isn't going to come back to him. It's some thing like that. And it's, it sounds corny and kind of stupid. In the context of the movie, it's so great. It's so fantastic. And it's kind of funny and it's kind of romantic and it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
The whole second half of the movie, for the most part, takes place at this fast food place where a different cop goes every night on his shift, and he and this girl kind of don't even necessarily form a connection. It's just kind of a weird thing that develops with them. It's totally food focused.
Yeah.
I never really picked up on it. I never really noticed it. I mean, the movie is called Chungking Express, and that was an American title. I think it was called Chungking Jungle, I think, in overseas.
Yeah.
And the name of this fast food place is Chungking Express. So it's, I guess it was beating me over the head all these years, but I never really picked up on it.
Yeah. It's just weird because if it seems like it's so much bigger part of their culture. Yeah. In those movies where that's just what you do. Like you go out and eat and stuff like that. Yeah. And then the American movies, like the examples you were sending me, like the scene wasn't so much about them enjoying food at a restaurant or even really eating. It was more just that was the backdrop of the scene.
The Godfather, that scene was with Sterling Hayden McCluskey is a great example. It doesn't really matter where they are. Yeah. It lets him say this great line, how's the Italian food in this restaurant? Yeah. But it doesn't matter that it's there. He just needs to be somewhere he can have access to a toilet that has a gun hidden behind it.
Exactly. And it's not like it's even about the food that they're eating. Or I don't know
what they
show. So it's kind of weird.
Well, Chungking Express actually tells you what they're ordering.
Oh, really?
I mean, he at the beginning of the beginning of the second half of the movie, because it's cut into two halves pretty much. Yeah. This cop gets a chef salad and what's the other thing? He gets something else, and this becomes a whole thing because he's getting the chef salad and this other thing because he doesn't know what his girlfriend is going to want. Yeah. Do we usually know in American movies what they're ordering when they go to a restaurant?
Yeah. Unless it's some type of...
Do we usually care?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That movie, I think, makes you care because it's part of the fabric of the movie. It feels like this is relevant, what they're having. Yeah. Most American movies, I guess, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, there's, Exactly, because, there's even that infamous, Cat's Deli scene with, I can't even think of the name of the movie. Billy Crystal and
When Harry Met Sally. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not really about them eating or anything. No, it's just that they're in that setting with all these old people.
The joke works because of the setting. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter that they're in a restaurant.
Exactly,
they could be at any public place. The joke, I guess, would have to be modified because it couldn't be all have what she's having. But what's relevant is what is said, not where it's happening.
Exactly. Yeah, and so when you're sending me those messages, you were talking about how it's kind of changing in that more films lately have some type of food plot inserted kind of, or it takes place more. It's it's trendy that, like the big one was Bridesmaids, that she has a cupcake shop.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I thought that was really unique because I didn't know if that was maybe just something that they're following what's popular right now.
I think that's an element of it. Yeah. I don't know how successfully it's used in most movies. There's a movie called Take This Waltz. Yeah. That Sarah Polley, who has a movie out now I've got to see called Stories to Tell, that she directed. Mm-hmm. And I saw it at the Toronto Film Festival, I think 3 years ago maybe, and I hated it. I walked out, actually. I left. There are other movies across the hall.
As the movie,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I thought, well, geez, I hate this. I might as well go across the hall and see what's there. I don't think that movie was any better, but I don't regret my decision. I watched it 6 months later. Yeah. I don't even know why I did. It was kind of unlike me to revisit a movie I really disliked. Yeah. And I loved it. Loved it the second time. Yeah. But I was still annoyed by Seth Rogen's job in the movie.
Which is what? I haven't seen this movie.
You know what? I think it's a great movie. I actually think it's some kind of masterpiece. I totally changed my opinion. Totally. Yeah, absolutely I have. He plays a cookbook author.
Okay.
And watching the movie at the film festival, I thought, how can I identify with that job? How many just cookbook authors are there in the world?
Yeah.
That's all you do is write cookbooks. That's all he does.
Yeah.
And God, it annoyed me. It really annoyed me. And it still kind of did the second time.
Yeah.
But then his cooking kind of does become part of the plot, whatever. I feel like, that has become, food-related jobs have become kind of a, I don't know, maybe kind of a cool thing to have.
Yeah.
Just watched this movie, Five Year Engagement.
Okay.
With Jason Segel and Emily Blunt, which I actually found really depressing and not funny at all, but it wasn't a bad movie. Just,
not in a bad way.
It's hardly a comedy. But
there's a lot of girls who went to that movie.
Oh my God.
And were just completely...
If I'd gone there and I wasn't married yet, if I went with like a girlfriend, it would have been horrible because you would have faced a lot of pressure after that
You just would have looked at each other and be like,
yeah. Well, and Jason Segel is a chef in the movie.
Okay.
It's just part of the backstory of the movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter that he's a chef.
Yeah.
There was this horrible Adam Sandler movie, Spanglish, in I think 2004.
Yeah,
maybe.
with Tia Leone.
Tia Leone, yeah.
Like one of her 5 movies that she's done.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel sorry for her because they saddled her with maybe the worst human ever in a movie. She was so obnoxious, and it's not her fault. She's a good actress. I mean, but whatever. That movie was one of the rare movies, I guess, that really spent some time on this person being a chef. That was his job, and I think part of it was, he was waiting on the results of a review. The food critic was coming. And, it's kind of stupid, but
yeah,
I hated the movie. But it almost seems like that's kind of more rare.
Yeah.
I mean, there are these kind of food-related jobs that are happening in movies now.
Yeah.
And they're just there in the background. What's funny is there's that, and they're just kind of there, and they sit there, and they're not really dwelled on. Mm-hmm. But then there are also lots and lots of documentaries now about food.
I can't keep track. I've been trying to watch as many as possible, and I've realized that there's 2 types of food documentaries. There's ones that are the world is ending. yeah. We are all screwed. Mm-hmm. And then there's the ones that
Inc.
Exactly. Food Inc. and King Corn and just a lot of really what is it? Super Size Me.
Yeah.
Just the ones that are we are all screwed.
Yeah.
And then there's the other ones that are Euro Dreams of Sushi and a new one that came out called Hey Bartender.
Yeah.
That are super, this is the coolest thing ever that's going on.
Yeah.
It's almost like food porn in itself.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I really think, I have nothing to base this on, it's just my personal belief. I really think that what is kind of contributing to that, not just the fact that I think people are more interested in food and, what they drink now.
The foodie culture
There's
is
that.
growing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what helps those movies, and I really do think it's an element of their success now, is that there are so many different ways to watch movies now.
Yeah.
And, last night I looked on Netflix streaming at how many food documentaries there are.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
My queue is ridiculous.
Yeah,
right
no, mine too. Yeah, and it's kind of staggering. I never get to the food ones. They're all in my queue, but I never actually get to them.
Yeah.
But I think that Netflix, Amazon, iTunes have probably really helped. I mean, Hey Bartender was just in Buffalo.
Yeah.
It was at the Amherst Ipsen for. I wrote about it briefly on my site. It was one night, I think 1 or 2 showings.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear if they were well attended. I don't think it was very publicized.
Yeah. Besides your posting, that was the only reason I knew about it.
Yeah.
I told the Vera people, and they had no idea either. When I sent them your link, they're like, "What?"
Oh yeah, see that's interesting because I only found it because every week I go on and I see what's coming, and I don't know. I mean, more people will find that movie on Netflix, than will find it in a theater,
yeah,
and that's not the worst thing in the world. It's a different way to watch movies.
Yeah.
Maybe it really gives some movies a chance to be seen widely that would never have that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, because the foodie niche it's growing, but it's still a niche. And so I don't think there's that wide of an audience. Like in Buffalo, New York, like I don't know how many people are really going to search out Hey Bartender, or maybe like the Sam movie that's coming out.
Yes, I was going to mention that, yeah.
Because that looks... That's almost like... It's kind of food porny, but it's also like... Food is really important. This is like... I don't think people think of people who drink wine and recommend it as like a really that serious of a job.
Right.
I think that... But then you see this movie that's about like... This is the hardest thing they'll ever do.
Well, the thing that's kind of interesting, too, that has had some really good reviews.
Yeah.
Hey Bartender has actually not had great reviews. It hasn't been that well received.
Yeah.
But if you are part of this culture that's really interested in this topic, you might not really care what the review is.
Exactly.
They might be review proof, which would be great. They'd be like the Fast and the Furious of, whatever, because they could be review proof. Yeah. And that's kind of a good thing, because I think sometimes people put way too much stock in reviews.
As somebody who writes reviews.
Yeah, clearly they're all mostly irrelevant. It's one person's opinion. I love it when somebody gets upset at something I wrote. Like, my opinion really matters. Who cares? If you like it, great.
Yeah.
But, I really think that just the availability of these movies and the fact that, they get written about all over the internet, I think it really helps them, and it gives them a chance to hit a different audience, an audience that might never have known they existed before.
Yeah.
That really is going to love this movie.
Yeah.
But may never have found it.
I think it's also that whole Netflix Q thing where if I've watched Food Inc., like it has that little section where then it just gives you every food documentary that they
what's funny?
have.
This is not related to food, but there's this Holocaust documentary called Shoah that I've been wanting to see for years.
Yeah.
It just came out on Blu-ray and DVD last week, but it's expensive. I don't think I'll be able to get a free copy. I'm probably not going to see it for a while, but it's in my rental queue.
Yeah,
and I moved it to the top. It's not streaming, but there was this long list of when you look at something on the streaming side of things, it will tell you. If they don't have it, it will still sometimes say we recommend this and this and this.
Yeah.
And one of the recommendations with this Holocaust documentary was a Louis C.K. stand-up. I was like, what's up with these recommendations? How is that possible? What is the link there? But anyway, it's neither here nor there.
No, that's pretty great. But I mean, sometimes I'll go down a rabbit hole of food documentaries because it's just there. Like I had no idea there was a film about Michelin stars in restaurants and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and like how stressful it is to get like their third star to keep their stars.
That's interesting.
And I happened to watch a documentary and it was like, oh, you should check this out. And now I'm 8 hours later I've watched my third movie and like
a friend of mine was just telling me she's on a documentary binge and she mentioned all these movies and I hadn't heard of any of them.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's probably a case where she watched one and led to this and then to that and then to this, and that's great.
And I think it does help though that there's Cooking Channel and Food Network and people who are watching food all the time.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Like 30 years ago, would somebody care to watch a movie about Al Bouli because that food's not out there? Like it's. I don't know. It's becoming cooler to know more about food, I think.
Even I, who, I really, I love food, but I don't really know much about food culture. Even I knew El Bulli. Like, I saw that, and, oh, wow, they made a documentary about that place. That's great.
Yeah.
And so I think the fact that people are just more aware and they're smarter about this stuff.
Yeah.
And, they know restaurants that are overseas that they might never get to, but they're aware of these places.
And chefs' names and things like that. And they're like, oh, there's that guy.
The thing that I'm really curious about, and I hope that you will ask this of chefs in future shows, is if there's a movie that chefs really love, that they feel captures what they do at all. There are 2 movies in the works about chefs.
Yeah.
One with Bradley Cooper, and one that Jon Favreau is directing with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And
the one that Jon Favreau, I've been following him on Vine, and he's been showing little videos of like his research.
Oh wow!
And so he's been to Miami.
Interesting.
And they went to L.A. and they were on Kogi, which is the huge food truck out in L.A. And he's like collaborating with the Kogi guy.
Oh, now see, that's interesting because I feel like a part of the success or failure of those movies will be, how authentic they appear to be.
Yeah, if they really capture.
Yeah, and my guess is that both will really make an attempt to do that.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see, how they both do. If I don't know if they'll be similar in any way, but they'll be linked. They will be linked in the conversation.
That's kind of like a lot of movies, though, where like there'll be 2 super volcano movies or 2.
Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah,
and White
exactly.
House Down. White House Down didn't do that well this past weekend, and it was a big surprise. But it opened, like 3 months after a movie with essentially the same plot.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot, and sometimes they both do well.
Yeah.
This could be.
There's
the
like
case.
2 Capote movies with him.
Yeah, and boy, the second one really went down hard. Yeah, infamous. Yeah. And it was interesting. It was an interesting movie.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy how that happens.
It's funny because I was just reading an article on that, on like these 2 competing movies and how that happens often. And I think Capote made like $50 million, which for a movie like that is huge.
Yeah.
And it won an Academy Award for Best Actor. Infamous, I think, made like $2 million, and most people hated it. It's actually not a terrible movie. It's just after that, and the guy who plays Capote in Infamous looks and sounds a hell of a lot more like Capote. But it suffered. So it'll be interesting to see which movie comes out first. At this point, I think I find Bradley Cooper much more likable than Robert Downey Jr. So
but didn't Bradley Cooper have his?
He had a TV show on Fox,
and it was based off Anthony Bourdain's book.
Yeah, and it kind of came and went. It was Bradley Cooper, I think, before he was a huge star.
Yeah.
This and he was still kind of playing the prick in movies. Like he was usually a jerk.
Yeah.
It's funny because now I find him really likable. At the time, I was like, oh god, that guy is such. Oh man. And that show kind of came and went, and now he's playing a chef again, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I just feel like that was one of those things where like the foodie culture wasn't there yet. Like people really didn't care about chefs.
You're absolutely right. Now, if it happened, and if it was on FX or HBO or Showtime, and he was allowed to swear, and it would probably be a great success.
Yeah, and it would be pretty hyped up. And
absolutely.
There'd be websites like Eater and stuff like that who are just like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I'm really curious though because Jon Favreau had a video and it was him putting fake tattoos on his arms so that they could do a camera test like that he was doing for like lighting or something like that. But I was like, wow, like they're really gonna be going okay.
Well, he's got a lot to prove after Cowboys and Aliens, so we'll see how that goes. But you know what? It is kind of fun to see that happening, because it's a different kind of movie, and I will really love to hear if chefs embrace it or totally spurn it.
Because there's books that chefs swear by. Like Kitchen Confidential is kind of like a rite of passage for a lot of chefs. Like they have to read, or they don't have to, but most of them read it and like it reaffirms what they want to do with themselves. I'm like, when you sent me that email, I couldn't think of a chef movie really even.
There was talk of, is it Gabrielle Hamilton? Is that the
yeah.
There was talk of
she runs Prune in New York
Yeah,
City.
There was talk of her book, which I actually read and I loved.
I'm about halfway through it right now. It's really good.
There was talk that Gwyneth Paltrow was going to star in the movie adaptation of that, and
I don't know if I want to see.
She's so unlikable. It's hard to imagine her.
Yeah.
I don't hate her, but people really dislike her.
I don't know why, but I've already associated her as waspy, and I don't feel like I could see her like as like
you don't see her as like an earthy,
kind of hippie, kind of druggy.
Yes.
Like I mean, if she could pull it off, like then I would be really even maybe more impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't. I mean, has there been a movie about a chef that was really devoted to this person being a chef? It's possible there has been.
Maybe there's been like an Italian film or something like that.
I saw the worst movie I ever saw at the Toronto Film Festival was a movie called Burning Man. It's streaming on Netflix.
Not about the festival?
No, totally unrelated. And it starred this actor Matthew Good, who he's been in some things. He was in Watchmen, and he was in this movie Stoker that I reviewed a few months ago, and he's a likable guy. But Burning Man was about a chef, And it did spend some time on him being a chef. There was a
Yeah.
key moment when he had to go pick up the shrimp, or he had to get something that he had to have it that night. It's a horrible movie. It's one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen. I do plan to revisit it at some point because I want to see if I was off base. That was about a chef, and it was terrible. Have there been great chef movies? I don't know. Again, maybe there have been, and you know, we've missed them or just aren't thinking about them.
I'm gonna start like a little chat after this with some of my chef buddies.
I think you should, and it's possible that we've seen them, but it was so unimportant in the context of the movie that it didn't even register.
Yeah.
And that would say something. You know, now it's going in a different direction.
Do you think that there's a potential with these two chef movies coming out that it's such a pop culture thing that if we watch these movies in like 10 years, they will seem completely dated?
Yeah.
Like if you look at like a lot of mid-90s things, there's a lot of coffee shops.
You've Got Mail? If you watch You've Got Mail now, it's like the most dated, it's like a time capsule.
Yeah.
I think that will probably be the case.
Yeah.
And that might make it kind of fun to look back and see, wow, this is what it was like.
I remember when people cared about, when people thought chefs were rock stars and everything.
Yeah, the question is, will that have lessened or grown?
Yeah.
I feel like it maybe will have grown, but it could go the opposite direction.
Yeah. So what would you say is the best food-themed movie, like the closest tie to food movie that you have seen?
The movie that people really love, and I do like it a lot too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years, but it's a very good movie. It's a movie called Big Night.
Okay.
And it's about a family restaurant. Stanley Tucci is in it. He directed it.
Okay.
And it's a very good food movie.
Yeah.
It's all centered around the restaurant and, you know, the family relationships. And it's just a very good movie. It's one that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the best. Is it a great movie? I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's a movie called Babette's Feast. That is...
Okay.
People love Babette's Feast. It was, in the late 80s, maybe 88, maybe earlier than that.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. It was an Academy Award winner. I think it won for Best Foreign Film. That's considered one of the great food movies. Yeah. For me, it's hard to say. I mean, again, I think I like the movies where food is central and I don't even realize it. Again, I think Chungking Express is a great example.
Yeah.
And this director, Wong Kar-wai, I think a lot of his movies, food is there. My Blueberry Nights is a movie he directed. Yeah. And people hated that movie. I loved it. It was his only American film. Yeah. It was a flop. It did not do well. Even the people who are really into his movies didn't love it. I loved it. I remember I gave it a 4-star review. Maybe I was going to give it a 4-star review regardless of quality. But I really do think, for me, it earned that. Yeah. And I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I put it in last night in preparation for this. And my God, that movie's food focused. I mean, the opening credits, these lingering shots of pie, and it looks fantastic. Yeah. And that continues through the whole movie. Yeah. Food is huge. I mean, it's called My Blueberry Nights. Yeah. And it took me aback because I hadn't recalled food being so utterly important to the movie. I think that is, maybe it says something about him. As I said, his movies are all very sensual and romantic, and I think he sees food as fitting with that. Yeah. Especially My Blueberry Nights. The very end of the movie, this doesn't give anything away. There's nothing to give away with this movie. Nora Jones is the star of the movie. Okay. It was her one acting role, and I think she was in Ted too. But she was really good, I think, in this movie. Yeah. And she has this seat that's reserved at this restaurant for a year or something because Jude Law, who runs this restaurant, really liked her, and so he kept the seat reserved, and she loved this pie that he made. And at the very end of the movie, she has ice cream on her lip, and he kisses her, and that's the end of the movie. It's a really great scene. Even that is kind of centered around food. Yeah. And that's a movie that I would highly recommend to people to take a look at. Yeah. Again, a lot of people hate it. I think now, after a few years have passed, it can kind of be appreciated. Yeah. But boy, food is front and center. Almost to a shocking degree. The opening credits are beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. This pie looks so good.
Well, it's kind of crazy because, like that director has obviously he has that attachment to food in his movies and everything. And like I was trying to think of like American directors or anybody who really had like a thing.
Yeah.
But the only thing was the article you sent me about Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Who
and that's kind of hilarious.
It's really funny, and somebody pointed it out when I started watching Ocean's 11. I forgot who it was. Like a friend of mine was like, "Do you know he's eating in every scene?"
Brad Pitt eats in movies all the time.
Yeah.
And in the Ocean's movies, he's always eating something.
Yeah,
it's kind of hilarious.
It's kind of like nobody ever really calls it out in the movie or anything, but it's like one of those like you just kind of notice it yourself.
You know, you feel like that movie. They were really. I like those movies.
It's just a bunch of friends hanging out.
Yeah, and you feel like, they probably knew what they were doing was a really commercial affair.
Yeah.
And they were probably really desperate to have some kind of unique character traits that they could put in. And his is he's eating all the time. And it works. It really works. It's funny to see what he's
that
eating,
like laid back, just doesn't care.
Yeah.
So he's eating, a sundae or whatever.
Yeah, I remember I think at one point he has like a little sundae with like a wooden spoon, like you used to get at the cafeteria at Orchard Park Middle School.
Yeah.
And it's great. It really fits the movie. I don't know if he has some kind of hang-up or this is something he's involved in. I don't know if he eats in World War Z, but
that's a good question.
It'd be great to see. I hope he does.
Because they had the site you sent me had like a list of everything he's eaten in every movie.
Yeah, Moneyball. I recall him eating.
You just would think like actors would be super self-conscious.
Yeah,
but maybe it's just Brad Pitt and he just.
That could be a reason why we don't see much eating in movies, because watching someone eat is often not really
it's hard
enjoyable.
To do that very like
you can't really eat sexy, I don't think, or eat cool. I think that's
unless you're Mickey Rourke. I mean,
you can get away with it. Yeah, if you're pouring, something.
If you're breaking an egg on top of somebody.
Do you remember the movie "Don't Be a Menace to South Central" while drinking your juice in the hood?
Yes.
I think that was the full title.
I think you just.
There was a great scene in that was kind of a parody of 9.5 Weeks.
Oh, okay.
And everything that they were eating, like during lovemaking, was like, they had like Kool-Aid and stuff, and it was really great.
It's kind of weird how it's in American movies it's either kind of overly gross, like it's like comedic, or it has to be like sensual. Like there's really no.
Yeah,
no,
you're absolutely right. I don't think it's been central in a lot of big American movies.
Yeah.
Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. That's probably my second favorite movie. It might. Oftentimes I'm watching that movie and I feel like, wow, I don't think there's ever been a movie that's quite had what this movie has. I mean, it's
if
it's on TV, I watch it. If it's on Spike, I watch it. I don't care that it's edited.
I think that happens to everyone. I think if you're flipping around and you see it, you're like, well, here's the rest of my hour.
I haven't seen it for real in years. I don't even remember what swears are in the movie. There's a lot of food in that movie. Mm-hmm. I remember Paul Sorvino when they're in prison, like cutting up like an onion with a razor blade.
Oh, the garlic.
That's right. Yeah, and it's this extreme close up of him doing that.
Yeah,
and it's great. He has this kind of studied expression on his face, and maybe Scorsese's used it a few times. I can't think of any other examples.
Basically, like I can only think of like Italian mob movies where there's always some type of
The Godfather. There's a scene where sauce is discussed. Well, Goodfellas again. The second. Actually, it's not the second half. It's like the last third of Goodfellas, like the Coke frenzy section of Goodfellas when Ray Liotta thinks the helicopters are following him. And maybe they are, because he keeps following. There's a lot centered around this sauce, and his family is, they're stirring the sauce, and he keeps mentioning you have to do this just right. It's like an all-day thing. Which maybe it happens in some families and cultures. It's not my existence. But, and so I feel like it's kind of a key part of that life. Mm-hmm. I don't mean that mafia life, but just those characters and their family. The Sopranos, I remember a lot of food stuff in The Sopranos. And, that's a show that, it was a mafia show, but it spent a lot of time on the mundane, on Tony watching the History Channel. And, making an ice cream sundae with his... I can't remember his son's name anymore. Oh, AJ. And so maybe there's something there that it's seen as central to the family, and so it's part of the family.
I think of like Raging Bull when he like throws the sauce and stuff like that. Like I was just like, like thinking like it's kind of an Italian thing, but I don't know. I don't know if that's like a real. I mean, I'm not Italian, so I don't know if that's like true,
So,
or if
you
that's
say we're
just
the two worst guys to pound it.
or if that's just like an exaggeration
I wonder
of that
too.
culture. Yeah.
I wonder too. I know that it's kind of an easy way to set the scene and to make things seem kind of homey.
Yeah.
And maybe it's surprising it's not utilized more often in movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think we covered a bunch, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you should, if we're still doing this podcast and Chef comes out, you should come back down.
Yeah, I would love to.
And maybe we'll get like an actual chef, and we can have like a
Yeah.
table discussion about
that
it.
would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I really would love to know if there is a movie, you know, like all golfers love Caddyshack. Is there a movie that all chefs love?
Yeah.
Maybe there will be if there isn't yet. I don't know.
Yeah, if Favreau can pull it off
Let's
with
see.
his sleeve tattoo.
I don't know. The sleeve tattoo gives me reason to worry, so we'll see.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much for coming down here. I really appreciate
Thank
it. And it was
you.
good hanging out after
Thank you.
13 years.
Yeah. And my site, by the way,
Yeah.
you know, I hope people
Filmswoon.
visit it.
Yeah, I'm
you know,
a huge fan of it.
It's the address is filmswoon.com, and it's just me. It's just a place to post random things. Not really a review site.
Yeah, I like that. It's not that you're kind of just doing more opinions and, and news things.
It's fun for me because I just kind of I try to do something every day. We'll see if I keep that up. But I try to do something every day, and it's just a lot of fun to kind of, you know, pick on different things and you know, I hope people get something out of it. And honestly, part of the reason I did it was because, you know, I saw what you do, and I thought, oh, wow, that's great. That seems like a really cool outlet, and
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, you're doing a great job with it.
Well, thanks so much. I
really
appreciate
like
it.
But
I
yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it.
again for coming down here, man.
Great to be here. It's weird not seeing you in red and khaki, but
I thought about putting it on.
those days
just
are
for-
over. I'll never wear red and khaki again, as long as I live.
All right, Chris.
All right, thank you.